Well, welcome everybody to another Peak Careers interview. Today, we're going to talk with the technology twins. It's the return of the technology twins. It was a couple years ago that I pulled these Melissa and Deb together. And today we're going to talk about some of the technology tools for 2021. Boy, things change so fast, and there's so much going on that I wanted to bring these two back. Briefly, do a little introduction here. This is Melissa Venable, currently serves as the features co-editor for National Career Development's Career Convergence web magazine, and is an associate editor for eLearning, and has been after me for a couple of years to write an article, which I still owe her, I believe, but we'll just set that aside. But she's a fellow writer, so. Deb Osborn is a professor at Florida State University and is the past president for National Career Development Association. And you can actually check out their blog at thetechnologytwins.com, which is a lot of fun. So let's just dive in. It's nice to see both of you. So let's start with Deb. What is your short list of must-have tech tools? What do you got out there?
Hey there, it's good to be here on behalf of the Tech Twins. I've got quite a few, and I know Melissa does as well. They emerge as the need emerges, right? So right now, I'm not teaching, so my tools are different than they were even a month ago. But while I was teaching and while I was delivering some workshops, one of my favorite ones was Kahoot, which is kind of a game playing thing.
Yes.
That I was shocked because I teach doctoral students, but oh my gosh, they love it as much as my high school students loved it. So, and even my advanced professionals, when I did some training there, love to get into that competitive spirit. So Kahoot's just a game that you can gauge attitudes and knowledge and so forth about it, and to kind of see where people are. You can pause and explain about where there's divergent opinions and things like that to correct misperceptions. So that's probably one of my number ones. Along the same lines, my students really seem to be into QR codes, which shocked me.
Really?
Because I thought those were out the window, and they're not out the window. And so when they would do presentations, they had QR codes for everything. QR codes for their shared documents, which is yet another one of my top tech tools that you must have. So they put a QR code on their slide, and instead of typing in even their tiny URL or the Google URL, the shorteners, they just wanted to use their phone to get to that website so they could collaborate together. So QR code generator, that's one that I use all the time now on my slides. But being an oldie goldie, I also go back and put the original link so that people can say, oh, that's from Pew Research, or that's a a valued source, a trusted source. And I put the tiny URL, and I put the QR codes, because I guess I'm an overachiever in that area. So Kahoot, the document sharing, whether it's, and I've got folks that like all three of the different ones I share. So whether it's OneDrive, I use that a lot. I use Google Drive for some other folks, and I use Dropbox still for other folks. It makes it a little crazy on my end, but I'm trying to accommodate different needs. QR generator. The last one, well, there's two more I'll share. One of them is Downie, DOWNIE, for downloading videos, because when I'm teaching online, you try to vary it up again to keep people interested, and trying to find video clips that are short enough to keep their interest, but long enough to make the point can be difficult. So being able to find a section of the video, download it, and then edit it, and then upload it as an MP4 was helpful. So Downie. And then Qualtrics, that's what I'm doing right now. Now that we're in summer, I'm able to focus back on research. So creating research surveys that I can send out with a link via Qualtrics would be a research generator. So those are the tools I'm using.
How do you spell what's called Qualtrics? Or
Qualtrics, QUALTRICS.
All right, so we're probably gonna have to stick some of these links in the on the web page so people can actually click on them too. Maybe you guys could do that for me.
Sure.
Melissa, what's going on with you? What's the latest and greatest?
Man, it's good to be here with both of you. as much as we're all online, we don't see each other even this way very much anymore. So it's great to be here. I had a couple of things that Deb had on her list, but a few others that I want to add here. First is Slack. It's an online communication tool, kind of community building. We use it where I work full time for everything. Instant messaging, group chat. You can send files. It's linked to our Outlook calendar system. So 1 minute before the meeting, it pings me with the Zoom link. I don't have to go find it. It's
That's awesome.
Containing. And since I work with people all over the country, everybody's got their little avatar. You can put on your picture or some fun cartoon thing and your little profile. And then it tells everyone else what your time zone is. So all I need to do, if I'm not sure if a person is around yet or up yet or has already gone to sleep, I can look and see really quickly what time zone they're in and know when to expect a response. So it's been phenomenal.
Wow.
Slack, totally recommend. Second, this seems obvious. I'm gonna say it and then I'm gonna wheel around it, is Zoom. Right?
Yeah.
But what
I've never heard of that before.
I know, it's wow, it's the newest, it's the latest, greatest thing. I think the last time we talked, Jim, you said something about this tool Zoom, somebody's got me using. This was a couple of years ago. So here we all are.
Yeah, I've been using it for a while. And when I for most of the years, I had to explain to people what it was, but
yeah.
Not
anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I've taken the Zoom experience since I'm in so many meetings and do more than I used to online conferences and even some media interviews and that kind of thing now. I upgraded my camera. So I don't just use my webcam anymore. I've got an HD camera plugged in. I've got a lighting system. You can't see it, but it's like hitting me right here. A thing called Loom Cube, which is kind of a high-end version of a circle light. Those circle lights, if you've heard of those, are really fantastic and super inexpensive. Just clip right on around your camera and put a little bit of front light. Since my window is over here, it's hitting me in the wrong place and I can't rearrange my furniture that way.
So this is what I look without my light on.
Exactly, right? It makes a huge difference to have that little bit of light. And this cube, I can change, warm to cool. And I can do 1% or 100% light. Right now I've got 1% because it's daylight. And so it's just that little boost, to kind of bring me where I'm on screen nicely. So those are some little upgrades that I've done this year. And then the third one that I wanted to share is my Apple Watch. I use it more now, right? It's a way for me to get up from my desk and wander around, and I can get my Slack. If somebody pings me on Slack, they need me right then, my watch will thump me so I know that there's something I need to get back and take a look at. For my students in the classes I teach, if they text me and I don't have my phone right on me, I'll see it there and see how urgent it is and I need to get back. It prompts me to get up and walk around. It prompts me to take a deep breath. Some basic stuff, but you can use it to make it so you're not just sitting. Because if left to my own devices, I'd be sitting here 10 hours straight. Maybe get up to get some lunch.
Yeah, Deb and I were talking about that before you logged in, about how it's so easy just to be stuck in your chair, and you don't even, when you're at a place of business, there's always a reason for someone to poke their head in or to get a cup of coffee or whatever, right? I mean, and there's always, but when you're home alone, it's, so it's
all happening right here.
I have a timer, and I've done this for years since I worked from home, actually in 2012. I set it for 45 minutes, and I get up and do something, even if it's literally just getting up and going out and looking at the bird feeder. I mean, it's so easy to be trapped. So I never thought of using an Apple Watch for that.
So I'll do the same thing. I'll get up and just make a loop around the house outside. Check the tomatoes. How are they doing? What's blooming this week? And say hello to the cat outside. But I don't have to take my phone. I don't have to, I've got the little watch. And if there's something comes up,
That's all. Oh, that's awesome. That's good to know.
And the
Mhm.
watch, I can just do things like check the weather and not get sucked into like Instagram.
That's right.
If I pick up my phone to check the weather, the next thing I know, I've spent 20 minutes on Instagram.
Hmm.
So the watch, I don't do that. I just check the weather. I just check the
Right.
time.
Interesting.
I just check the message. So it's a shortcut.
So
Yeah.
the next question, it's kind of, what did you have other, I'm sorry, Melissa, did you have more?
No, those were my main ones for that.
Because
But I had, when she was talking, it kind of made me think of a couple more, if I could jump in.
yeah.
Back in. So one of the things that we use a lot, and this is for practitioners, but we have practicums where, we provide services to clients and everything. So of course they're using Zoom or WebEx or something like that to provide those services. But a lot of times in these training institutions, you need to have some type of supervision going on. And so of course, using the breakout rooms, that's important. But beyond that, you still need to have like that old counselor in the ear or bug in the ear type of approach. And so I know that a lot of times what my supervisors are using is Teams, Microsoft Teams. So they'll have that up and running while somebody's in session. They're able to say, hey, can you go check in on that session? Can you watch? Or they'll text the counselor via that. And you don't have to worry about it coming up like check for, depression, check or ask this client more about that, which looks it's pretty unprofessional. But if it's in Teams, then that's happening and the person can see it and also use that.
Hmm.
The other thing I thought of was just, in terms, Melissa mentioned Zoom, and on our blog, we spend a lot of time over several weeks of teaching and experimenting with Zoom, talking about the different tools there. So using, again, a variety is kind of the spice of life. So whether it's breakout rooms or polling or having people annotate on Zoom, just to make it a little more interesting, because students in particular can get really Zoom weary. I know faculty can too. So that was, as she was talking, a couple other things that came to mind.
I just wrote my blog last week was on a similar topic about how this pandemic has taken all of our workshops in higher ed or in high schools, all these workshops and gone online. And there's a good and a bad to that, but you've got to have that variety, and you've got to be much more attuned to people, right? When I'm in a room with people, I can tell that I need to go slower, or I can tell that they get it and I can just move on. And then I can also kind of tell when someone needs a break, right? I mean, those are all things are very hard to tell on Zoom. And
you can't read the room like you can.
Yeah. And so it takes more energy, and you got to, I think, in this kind of form, you got to allow more time too. You can't get through as much material typically as you can in a regular workshop. But
and I know for me, one of my goals is that students will leave my class feeling engaged, like they had a voice. There was a reason they were there and not attending a pre-recorded lecture. So one of my goals for every class is that they've had to participate in some way, whether it is polling. I can't tell if I can, because it tells me the number of people that have responded. But, I can't tell did person A versus person B. But if I put them in breakout rooms, if I have them annotate and assign them, each a case or a question, and I've got their names beside it, they know, hey, I've had a chance to engage with the material. It takes a lot of planning beforehand, but
it does.
You have to be purposeful if that's something that's important. And it is for me. I think it is for most of us. That's why we're in this field.
Yeah. We
want people to work with the information we're sharing, not just, take it all in like a sponge, but actually do something with it.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be more thoughtful about it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just submitted a proposal today to a conference, and it's introduction and then great to the breakout room. I want them to know that they're going to be engaged, that it's not a sit back. I want them to know right away, and so those are things you got to think about. You wouldn't necessarily have to do that, but you've got to be more thoughtful about it. You're right. So the next prompt was about resources, which could be kind of similar, but what are some go-to resources? And maybe we'll start with Melissa and hear what she has to say first.
Sure. I've got 3 things that I really want to hit today, and one of them might be an overlap with Deb. I'm not sure. We'll see. I have to plug Career Convergence magazine. from NCDA. It's online, it's free to access, you don't have to be a member. And it comes out monthly, lots of great articles in different workplace settings for career counselors and coaches. And it includes monthly tech tips from the technology committee, who I love working with, and haven't been as active lately as I was in the past, but they're doing a great job keeping those monthly tech tips nice and fresh and really interesting. So go and take a look. You can even look at the archive of the tips on the magazine website. Just kind of scroll through there. The second thing I have is a group out of the UK, and it's the resource that they do every year. They take votes from all over the world of people who work as learning professionals to ask them what technologies they're using. And then they separate it into workplace learning, educational learning settings. And then there's one more that I can't remember right this second. I know as soon as I said three, I would forget the third one. But the website is toptoolsforlearning.com. And the 4 is a 4, like a number 4. toptoolsforlearning.com. And the list that's up now is a 2020 list from September, and you can scroll through, see how the lists compare across the different types of learning, see how tools have moved up and down the list. I think there's a list of 200 there, and you can go and explore all kinds of different things there. But they do voting every year. So if you want to participate in that, check out the website and see when the next vote's going to come up, and you can send in your top 10 to contribute to that.
Awesome.
And then the third thing, which is this total tech nerddom, is CNET, which is a site that is affiliated with the organization I work for, Red Ventures. I've had from being sort of in a company that they're involved with, I knew about them, but now I know even more about them, and they're really fascinating. I do a lot of tech reviews. They, unbox the latest device and tell you all about it, and they do it in a really fun way, and kind of give you some tips and tricks on how to integrate technology and some cool future kind of stuff that's coming out. So that could be a good place for inspiration, and for reviews and hints on how things are working. Yeah, that's my list.
It's so cool. One of the things I love about presenting with Melissa is that every time I present with her or do anything with her, I learn something new. And so that last one, I was going to ask you, how do you spell that, Melissa? That sounds amazing.
A letter C and then NET.
Awesome.
I'm gonna ask you guys to send me the links for all your resources so we can get it in there. But yeah,
sounds great. And that's one of my resources are people like her. Like, she mentioned this group, but that was my number one go-to resource. I mean, Melissa is my number one. But beyond her, just there are other people that I talk to. Like I mentioned, my students, those have been my go-to resources when I was teaching, when trying to do this via Zoom and learning. It's like, wait a minute, I need to learn from them. What tools are they already using? What do they get energized? What's not going to have a huge on-ramp for learning for them? So, the apps that they're already using, the websites they're already visiting, the hardware that they're using, so that technology is not a barrier. So talking with my colleagues, she mentioned, of course, Career Convergence, CDQ as well. Melissa wrote a great article on technology and dealing with fatigue and things like that. So I lean on my colleagues in terms of research for things like that. So NCDA is a big one, but definitely not just my techie ones. When my husband says, you've got tech face, or you've got cell phone neck, or whatever it's called, because you've been looking like this all day long, get up, go stretch, it's time for a break. So leaning on people like that. Friends and colleagues that'll say, where are you right now? You're still in that same chair. You haven't moved. It's time to get up and go move outside. It's really kind of a go-to resource. But some other ones that I use, I'm using DocuSign, DOCU, and then the word sign a lot now for all of the forms that people have to sign. So it's one of those, usually you can upload a Word document or a PDF, but when you're requiring signatures, instead of having to email it to Melissa and say, Melissa, I need your signature, and she has to download it and then save it and then upload her signature. And we were running into issues with, now it's locked and you can't sign it. You can't edit it or do anything. So instead, it's one website that lets you set the signing order. And if I need a copy to go to this person, but they don't need to sign it, then I can set all that up ahead of time. I can say that Melissa has to fill out this section, and I can, pinpoint where she needs to go and fill out, and this is where she signs, and it automatically dates it. And then once she's done it, it sends it to the next person. So that's one that I've used so much lately. We've mentioned document sharing. So whether it's OneDrive or Dropbox, I use that all the time. And then the other one that I use is Google Alerts. So just setting, and I just changed it recently because I wasn't tracking on some of the key terms that I had been tracking on. So I wanted to include some more, just some other terms like animation or, Snapchat or something like that. And I can set it to where I get a weekly summary of what's been going on, or a daily. And I typically do a daily because you can skim the headlines, but that kind of keeps me in the know of what's going on. So this would be mine.
I use Google Alerts, but not as much as I should. I mean, I've got a few out there, but yeah, I need to. That's a great tip. I love that one because we don't have time to go out. Most of us don't have time just to go out and just go looking. And here, Google's just pulling it right in for you. So,
right.
All right, let's shift gears and let's just talk a little bit about the overuse of technology, and maybe some ideas on how to track your use and maybe prevent tech fatigue, and just, what's some observations along that line, either one of you.
I'll jump in there. I would advise walking away from any app that is a time waster. I mentioned Instagram earlier. 2 weeks ago, I deleted Instagram from my phone. I didn't delete my account. I can still get to it on my iPad, but I don't use my iPad very much. The first week after I deleted that app from my phone, every Sunday I get that, your screen time has increased. Or the first week it said, your screen time decreased by 24% this week.
Wow.
Because in the morning, on a break, in the evening, I'm just scrolling. It's doing nothing for me. So I said, walk away. It's okay. Give yourself permission to not know what all's going on there. And the same thing with apps that stress you out. I completely abandoned Facebook during the presidential election, and I haven't gone back. And I thought, oh man, I'm not gonna know what's going on, and some local groups I'm part of, but you find other ways to stay connected to the people and the things that you really want to stay connected to. So if something's stressing you out, give yourself permission to just move it to the side, and I think you'll be surprised how little you actually miss it.
I love that you said that, Melissa. And see, we haven't even talked, but I gave up Facebook about probably, well, I noticed the stress, like you said, in the presidential election. I was so stressed because what I do is I'd go to Facebook, as you mentioned, on the breaks, first thing in the morning, right before I go to bed. And I'd go from Facebook to my news app and start reading about news on the election. And then I go back to Facebook and start looking at that. And then I stop that and I go to work. And then it just on repeat. And my anxiety and my irritability was through the roof. I'm not usually a mean person, but man, I was mean even to my cat. He stopped talking to me, nasty to him, But yeah, so I gave that up. I haven't given up Instagram yet though. But yeah, that, like you said, the first week was a little, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm what am I missing out on? And I had people email me and say, where are you? Are you okay? And it's like, yeah, I'm taking a break. And I just deactivated it. It's there if I need to go back, which I've had to for a couple of things, but then I'm right back out. But yeah, I just feel so much more at peace. And like you said, you find, my quilting guild, they post things on Facebook, but they also email me with, hey, here's what's happening in the quilting guild. So but just that release and being able to let go of something that is stressing you out or making you irritable. What great advice.
Well, and all these things are designed to keep you sucked in, right? I mean, it's like all the
stimulants, right?
Games, right? The games are like, oh, there's another level. And Facebook, oh, if you like that, you'll like, and so it's, I mean, they're very good at sucking you in, and so you really have to be thoughtful about saying that's enough, right?
Well, I know for me, and now, of course, you got to be careful not to replace it with another
Right.
bad habit. But yeah, I started looking at Reddit again, which I kind of hated Reddit because it's just such an ugly platform. But somebody posted about career counseling. I'm like, oh, I want to see what that's about. And so I'm scrolling through, reading all this bad advice and some good advice and some off the wall advice, but still, it's fascinating. And then the next thing you know, it's like, well, what about this, and the
Yeah.
same thing with YouTube. You watch this, and like you said, Jim, all of a sudden, oh, you might like all of these, and you're like, yes, I might. Let me go check out that one, and it's easy to replace one with another. So it's just being mindful, like you said, of okay, wait, is this taking away now from time with my family or time, time just by myself where I could do other things?
Or just energy, right? I mean, we all have a certain amount of energy, but I think one of the things we've lost is time alone, right? I mean, and just doing nothing, just letting your brain just be. Right?
Rest.
I mean, like I've tried to so consciously, even when I go to if I'm at a store, I'm waiting in a line, it's like, it's so easy to pick up the phone. I'm like, now I just say, no, just be here. And it's okay, right? It's okay. Melissa, did you have
It's
some
probably
others?
healthy. It's hard though.
Oh, but
It's hard to do that. It's hard when it's your habit, when it's your go-to. I've got to get there and get that. I need to take advantage of this moment. Like you said, constant stimulation. It's hard to just sit with yourself or just, to drive and not have music or a podcast or constant, influx of information and challenging and controversy or even good things, but constantly being stimulated. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, Melissa, did you have some other things you wanted to mention on this?
Yeah, I wanted to throw in sort of kudos for you, Jim, and I follow you on LinkedIn and the newsletter and such, and you take a tech break and you're very open about doing that regularly and providing a very good model for that on a regular basis. And it's something that I don't do, but aspire to do it. And I feel like I need to start with, okay, I'm going to take an hour a day. Maybe even if I'm eating my lunch, I'm not eating my lunch on my phone or something like that to make that little break in the day and then try to build on it. So maybe once a week I'm taking a half day that's tech free.
Even once, if you even like for me, it's once a month. Matter of fact, it's on my list, my to-do list today is to set up. I do a whole day, and so it's on. I've got to get a hold of this friend of mine who lets me use her office and just sort of arrange it, find a day that I'm free. I don't have any appointments. And then if she has to have her office open that day. So, but even if it's once a month, and even if you could do a half a day, there's something really powerful about it. So thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know for me, I'm not teaching for the first time in 20 years, 20 plus years this summer. And so trying to figure out how am I going to fill this time in the summertime has been challenging, but also exciting. And like, what am I going to do? And some of it involves tech. Like I did sign up for a structural equation modeling course because I'm a nerd and gotta get my nerd fix, but then it's like, well, what am I going to quilt? And what about, but one part of my reflection has really been, how do I want to invest my time with the people around me, like my parents or my kids who are about to, fly the coop and everything? What do I want to do that's different, that's not technology based, but that's going or even trying to schedule more regular coffee meets with friends and things like that. Now that, we've had the shots and everything, but purposely investing in others that doesn't require, the Zoom or the email and things like that. So it's been a challenge because so much of what we do for fun and for work is online. And before COVID, at least there was a little bit of a break, it seemed, and you knew that. But now that, man, they just intersect and interfuse with each other so seamlessly. It's really painful to put a stop to some of these,
My father-in-law, he passed away, I think 10 years ago now, but I'd go over to his house and Joe would just be sitting in a chair in the backyard. And I think, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
And the reality is I can do that. And but it's so easy to grab, your technology and move on. But I think, you know, you got to have that balance. The technology helps us in so many ways. I mean, there's so much more information we can get, and we can, you know, it can be vetted, and there's all kinds of tools as we've talked about. But I think I'm so glad that you both sort of brought up this whole balance thing, and being able to turn some things off. And I still remember Joe. I'd come over and he'd just be sitting in the backyard watching the birds, and I'm like, man, I got to do that. And so I do that. And there's times, I mean, I think of Joe and I think, you know what? I'm just going to go out my back deck, which is it's all wood, it's behind the house, and just sit on the back deck for 15 minutes, right? Whatever. I mean, it's just that break. So.
And what do you
You're
feel
moving
when you're
into
doing that?
meditation realm there? Yeah. Oh, sorry, Deb.
It's okay. I was just curious, you know, just what do you feel in that moment when you're doing that, or in those 15 minutes, you know?
Well, you know, at first it's hard.
Yeah.
It's like the first time I did a day-long retreat, it was really hard. And now
Anxiety provoking.
and now I really look forward to it. It's even those moments where I just go sit, it's just like, it's a treasure, you know, it's a gift I've given to myself. So I do walking meditation every morning. I just go for a walk. I listen to the news for a little bit, and then I shut that off, and then I do walking meditation. And then 2:30 or so most days, except for today, because you guys were scheduled at 2:30. But so I did it at 1:30. I take a 20-minute meditation break then, and it's been a godsend for me. It has been. Those are the things that help me slow down, you know. And I'm not perfect, and I don't have it all figured out, but you know, my father-in-law, he's my inspiration. You know, I think you gotta be present, right? That you gotta be in the moment and be present as much as you can.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
And I know that, well, I was just, as you were thinking about that, I thought some of us need more help with that than others. So thankfully we have the tools and apps that can kind of shut your computer down or say, no, this is your lockdown time, so that there's not an option if you have trouble, if it's become kind of an addiction in a way that I can't walk away because what if I miss, and so forth. So thankfully there are tools out there to help us with that if we're having trouble finding that self-motivation to do it as well.
Well, and it's a mindset. So you need tools, but you also just need a mindset change is really what you need is just help you change your mind. So listen, you two are coming back. I don't know if you know it or not, but this is, there's more to talk about, but for today, we're going to wrap up. I'm Jim Peacock with Peak Careers Consulting, and I really started the Peak Careers with the Facilitating Career Development course. I've developed online discussion-based seminars. They're 5-week-long discussion-based with other career practitioners. So it's a mix of networking and learning from each other in a seminar style, kind of like a small mini college online class. I've been doing that since 2010. Back in the old days, before COVID, I did face-to-face workshops, still doing a fair number of workshops, individual career coaching. I'm also the author of Field Guide for Career Practitioners. And last month, I came out with The Adventure of Finding Me in New Zealand. It's a book about a year-long travel experience I had, backpacking 6 months, a little over 6 months through New Zealand. And a near-death experience that I had, saw my life pass before my eyes and everything. So that book is out now and on Amazon. If you are a career practitioner or a career coach, counselor, and anyone who delivers career services, feel free to sign up for my top 10 tips for working with an undecided person. And I also send out a weekly career emails for people. And I'm on all of these different social media sites, but primarily LinkedIn is my go-to. And thank you, the Technology Twins. Thank you both so much for carving some time out today. It's always a pleasure to sort of hear what's going on and what's new in the technology world. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Jim. Great to be here.